Welcome back to another episode. Today we'll be talking about work and burnout.
Burnout can be either physical or mental, or even both, exhaustion by overworking or stress. If it happens frequently without being treated properly, it can cause serious mental and physical health issues. Overworking can cause burnout when an individual begins to work beyond their mental and physical capacity. It happens when you are working too hard, too much, or even for too long. If it feels like you are exceeding your capacity at a certain task, this is burnout or overworking.
You might think stress and burnout are the same thing, but in reality, they are both very different. Stress is the feeling you get when you put in too much effort, while burnout happens when it is physically and emotionally exhausting to put in any effort. When you are stressed, you can feel your emotions more strongly. On the other hand, for burnout, your emotions feel blunted. You are unable to express any types of strong emotion, neither positive or negative. When you are stressed out about something, for example, a test or an exam, you may feel hyperactive and anxious, but when burnout hits you, you feel drained or helpless. Overall, stress takes a more physical toll on you, which can cause you to have less energy, while burnout makes you lack motivation and takes a more dangerous emotional toll on you.
There are three main types of burnout. First, there's overload burnout, where people work harder in order to achieve their success. They are willing to risk their health and personal life in pursuit of their ambition.
Second, there is under-challenge burnout. This includes not feeling appreciated, feeling overall boredom, and having a lack of learning opportunities. These people find no passion or enjoyment in their work. They cope by distancing themselves from their job. This indifference leads to cynicism, avoidance of responsibility, and overall disengagement.
Lastly, there's neglect burnout. This subtype of burnout results from feeling helpless at work. People may feel incompetent or unable to keep up with the demands of their job or school.
There are also different stages of burnout. Stage 1 is milder symptoms, such as mental fatigue at the end of the day, feeling unappreciated, frustrated, or even tense, physical aches and pains, feeling like you are falling behind in your work, and dreading it the next day.
In stage 2 of burnout, it can result in longer-lasting symptoms, which are more challenging to reverse. They can include disillusionment about your work, feeling bored, apathetic, or frustrated, feeling ruled by a schedule, and they can all affect you mentally, which can lead to irritability, aggression, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and even suicidal thoughts.
Stage 3 is severe, such as chronic symptoms can evolve into psychiatric or physical health disorders if they are untreated for a long time, can lead to severe personal consequences such as the dependence on certain substances and a shorter life expectancy, and many others.
There are also many consequences to burnout. This can include sleep deprivation, changes in eating habits, increased illness due to weakened immune system, difficulty in concentrating, poor memory or attention, lack of productivity, poor performance, avoidance of responsibility, as well as loss of enjoyment.
There are many ways in which we can prevent burnout, such as recognizing the early symptoms of burnout and the related risk of it. These signs can help be split into 3 sections: physical, emotional, and behavioral. On the physical side, you can be feeling tired for most of the time, experience lowered immunity, frequency headaches, back pain, muscle aches, a change in appetite, or even change in your sleeping habits and patterns. In the emotional aspects, you may begin to experience feelings of self-doubt, hopelessness, detachment, decreased motivation, increasingly negative outlook, as well as a decrease in satisfaction and a fall in your sense of accomplishments. Lastly, there's the behavioral stages or signs, which can include withdrawing from responsibilities, isolating yourself, procrastination, using food or drugs or even alcohol as a coping mechanism, or even taking out your own frustration on others. However, not everyone will experience the same signs. We might all experience different kinds of burnout. Some people might show more signs or even less signs, but that doesn't mean your experience of burnout is less severe than anyone else. Everyone has their own individual experiences with burnout.
Some other ways in which you can prevent burnout can include developing the ability to self-reflect and the ability to put these thoughts into practice. You could also complete a periodic assessment and realignment of goals, skills, and work passions. Besides those, you could be exercising regularly, eating a well-balanced and healthy diet, and getting enough sleep, which can all positively affect hormones. You could also try including hobbies or something that you can enjoy, and learn to develop resilience. In general, the best way to prevent burnout is to remember to look after yourself. Give yourself time every day to do the things you love, to talk to the people around you. Try to remind yourself not to engulf yourself with work every day.
So now for the anonymous stories, our first message is, I think burnout is pointless. If the work keeps getting too hard or too much, I just give up. So we can't clearly state that burnout is pointless. It is not really something we can choose, but rather it is a mental health issue that can occur after overworking ourselves. And if the work keeps getting too hard, we need to learn to start from the bottom and work our way back up. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Slowly and surely you will find yourself working your way through it, and eventually hard bits will begin to become more doable, and soon enough it might even become an easy task for you. And even if the work is way too hard for you, try to take it apart into small pieces and parts to prevent yourself and even ourselves from overwhelming ourselves with the really hard parts of the task. But remember to take rest in between to ensure you are not overworking yourself, and obviously to prevent burnout.
Now on to our second message. I wonder how many people in school are burnt out, especially during exam years. Yes, I've heard about this a lot actually. I personally, as a year 12, have experienced burnout last year, especially after having taken IGCSEs. It really began after mocks, as I was so mentally and physically exhausted. I began to lose interest in getting good grades, but rather I simply just wanted to pass at that point. But we can all overcome this burnout at one point or another. We all just have to take things one step at a time and make sure we don't overwhelm ourselves again. Even though exam timetables can be out of our control, we still can have control over our study and sleep schedule. We have to make sure that we are balancing our work and private life. Make sure that we are allowing ourselves to give time to enjoy ourselves, whether it be a hobby, yoga, watching TV, or more. This can help ensure that we don't overwork or overwhelm ourselves with work.
For the next message, it says, I experienced burnout before. It was after my exams. Right when I finished it, I fell into the cycle of being mentally exhausted from the practice of procrastination, of feeling bad about procrastination, and back to being mentally exhausted. I still can't get out of this cycle, and I really want to break it because I don't think I can go anywhere else if I continue on like this. So yes, this can be a rather common thing with most students when they go through exams a lot, and it is probably due to the fact that we would typically work harder, especially during exam season, and the sudden overworking can be a lot overwhelming for us, and it can eventually lead to mental and physical exhaustion to our brain and our body if we're not resting enough.
I think that the best possible way to reduce this exhaustion is to sleep, even if it feels like sleeping doesn't help. It gives your brain and body a bit more rest. Or you could try to space out your workload even more evenly. Try to give yourself rest and relaxation during times of stress. During these times of relaxation, try going for a walk or doing a workout, or even simply laying around in bed and listening to music may help. It all depends on the person. But we all break this cycle eventually, so don't worry.
Now for our question section. The first question is, does burnout only happen during bad times? So it can happen anytime, whether it be when you are at your peak or when you are at your lowest. When you feel at your lowest, you may feel like nothing is working, which can impact your mental health. Or you may be at your peak and feel like you're unable to slip up, neglecting both your mental and physical health. It can happen to anyone at any moment in their life.
When does burnout happen? Burnout can happen when we expect too much for ourselves, when we push ourselves too much. When we believe we can do a task perfectly, we might feel incompetent or underappreciated for our efforts to the point where it starts to affect our relationship with both work and health.
Next, we have, is burnout recognized as a mental illness? Although it is not a mental illness, it is still considered a mental health issue, which is why it is important for people to speak up about it and to let others know that it exists. And if they are suffering from it, they can know that they're not alone and it is possible to come out of burnout.
Can you spot burnout? Yes, it is possible to spot burnout. If you realize your friend is underperforming, seems exhausted, or even just seems more distant in general, then they may be suffering from burnout. Try to talk to them and see how you can help them. You could relay this podcast to them, or you could share the tips we mentioned earlier to them. Try to help them relieve the pressure and stress they may be feeling. It could be something as simple as going on a walk together or watching a movie together. Simply just reaching out to them can help too.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. See you next week.